Well, back again. You may notice this is not the usual vehicle. The car is currently in the shop. Nothing major, just an oil change. So, because I can't get off work, because, well, my job doesn't think I need to have in the work-life balance. They think it shouldn't be a balance. It should just be work. A work life, not any other life. But, haha. Joking. All joking aside, the car is in the shop. I'm driving my stepdad's truck, just because my truck don't run, hasn't for years, because, well, I need to rebuild the engine. I don't know how. I don't have the equipment. I find myself in a very unique and precarious position in which, for the first time since I've been doing videos, I've had someone actually ask my opinion on something. Yeah, that's a dangerous thing. Be careful what you ask for. You might just get it, and today, this moment, you're getting it. The exact question was regarding Trump's response to gun violence after the shooting in Parkland, Florida, or wherever. And the article they linked, and I'm going to put the link in the description if I don't forget, is his plan to give a pay raise and extra training to teachers who do all the proper training to carry in the classroom. I think it's a stupid idea. Actually, I think his whole plan is entirely stupid. It's not just because, as I keep saying, you cannot legislate or regulate morality. It doesn't work that way. People who are intent on doing harm will find ways to do harm no matter what. The best option is to try to raise people who actually give a flying flip about others and don't want to harm others and aren't self-centered pricks. And that's the long story short. But since you actually wanted my opinion, I'm going to give it. As far as arming teachers and training, and it was very funny to ask this question because the article did come out that the school resource officer, who was a sheriff's deputy and who had all of the proper training and everything, stood outside the school as the shooting was going on and would not go in. They had it on video. He has since resigned. If a trained police officer in a critical situation would freak out and not do their job and go in, I don't have faith in teachers doing it. And you can sit there and brag about, and I'm sorry it's bouncing, it's a truck with no payload, it's going to bounce, but you can say they would be properly qualified, and he did say something to that effect, that they would be properly trained and qualified and they could handle it. Well, this police officer couldn't handle it. You expect me, a teacher who is not going to go through the police academy, had no intentions of being in the police academy, could handle it? No, I'm not buying it. Maybe someone else will, Mr. Trump, but not I. I just don't trust necessarily all teachers to do that. Maybe if one has, I had teachers that had background in law enforcement or backgrounds in the military. I would trust them in that situation because they've had the proper military or law enforcement training where they should, keyword is should, be able to handle a stressful situation like that. I don't think it would be possible for a teacher to do that. And if you do have that issue, I think you're going to wind up having a lot of teachers, especially good, solid teachers, give up the ghost and quit because they don't want to fool with it and they don't trust their fellow teachers for that. And that's a fact. I know several people who are teachers or were teachers, and I don't know of any of them in favor of this. They are in favor of mental health. They are in favor of more teachers. They're in favor of better education. They're in favor of, one of One of them's even in favor of a semester-long class in mental health and trying to teach kids not to be pricks. You know, self-centered pricks, and actually to value the lives of others. And the fact of the matter is, I think that has the potential. Ow, I can't talk today. I think that it has a potential to be more beneficial than arming teachers, and here's the simple reason. I've had 2 instances this week on my commute to work where I've almost been run over. People who would ignore turn signals. People who did signal but cut me off. And I got the finger for it. Yesterday, I was trying to pass someone in the right lane going 5 miles under the speed limit, but I was limited by the speed of the vehicle in front of me as to how fast I could pass them. I eventually did pass them, got in the right lane, like you're supposed to, and the car that was behind me in the left lane sped up, and they actually turned around their seat giving me dirty looks, and I think they might have given me a hand gesture I couldn't readily tell. All because I was not passing the car in the right lane fast enough for them, I assume. That's not including the times. There was one time last year in which I was crossing the street on my way to work. The light for the traffic going perpendicular to the path I was going was red, and this car was sitting there and had stopped. They had actually stopped when it was green, but then when the light was red, they just sat there, still stopped. So I started off walking, and I got right in front of their car, and all of a sudden they just took off, and I had to jump out of the way. Let that sink in, folks. And they mouthed off at me and threw up some hand gestures and everything else. And I said, "Hey," and I shouted some things and pointed out, "You have the red light." Red light, I can scratch my head. That was starting to bug me. The fact of the matter is, we live in a society where people are so absorbed with what they're doing, where they're going, what they have, their needs, their wants, they don't take others into consideration. And giving untrained people, or giving them untrained people some form of training and handing them guns to defend classrooms in an active shooter situation ain't going to work. I don't think it might work in some situations, but like I said, if the school resource officer, a trained and licensed deputy, can't handle it, I don't think a teacher could. I could be wrong. That's not a definitive situation. This is just one instance. But he has said some other things, like there's talks of an AR ban. I'm against it, because they're not true military-grade weapons. And because the people that want to do harm will find other ways to do it. Bump stocks. I don't own a bump stock. I don't own anything that can use one. I've never shot anything that could use one. To my knowledge, I've never even held anything that could use one. Actually, I take that back. I might have done it one time. I still don't agree with it, because one, if you know what you're doing, you can bump fire a gun without a bump stock. Any semi-auto gun, if you are careful, you can do it. I've seen it done. So that's not going to do anything. They want to limit your magazine capacity. Oh, 10 rounds out will stop everyone. No, it won't. If you know what you're doing, you can change your magazine out in 2 seconds. If you know what you're doing. That's not enough time to stop someone. It might be enough time to stop or do a fast, hurried draw and fire in the general direction. But it ain't enough to rush someone like some people say. All you do, if you try that, will get yourself killed. So, magazine capacity ain't going to help. Background checks more stringent background checks with mental health. What's going to happen there? I have social anxiety issues. That's the official diagnosis. I have seen counselors for it. I'm currently on something called BetterHelp, seeing a counselor that way. It's text-based counseling. I am a pacifist. I don't believe in doing harm to anyone unless they are posing a threat to the well-being of, myself or someone else. In that situation, yes. Would that discredit me? Would that cause red flags to me? You see, just because some people with anxiety might be a threat to others does not mean I will be. Same with schizophrenics, or so on and so forth. Autistic people. Some people are more of a threat to them than others. You can't just use a cookie cutter and say, well, all people with autism will pose more of a threat to others. It don't work that way. It just, mental disorders do not work that way. There's no cookie cutter thing because it affects people differently, and there's different types of disorders. And like I said, you can have 5 people with the exact same form of the exact same disorder, and it will affect all 5 of them completely and totally differently. So you can't just make this definitive statement, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. All you can do is look at each individual case and say, yes, yay or nay, do they pose a threat? Have they shown aggressive nature or whatever? But then you get into the HIPAA laws, and that was a reason why that didn't go through under Clinton. Doctor-patient confidentiality came up. So that ain't going to help. And even then, it looks like he would have passed the background check anyway. Even if it were more stringent, he would have passed. So that wouldn't have helped. You see what I'm getting at? Anything you try, there's going to be ways around. And even with my suggestions of focusing on mental health and removing the stigma and getting it where it's more accessible and people don't feel ashamed with the idea of seeking professional help, even if you do that, even if you try to work on helping to teach others to actually give a flying flip about others, guess what? There's still going to be people that are going to try to do harm to others. It's part of the price we pay for society. You're going to have people that are just assholes. Pardon the language, but it's going to happen. There's always going to be the potential for someone to want to do harm to others. No rhyme, no reason. They could probably pass every last of the mental health checks. They're still going to want to do harm to someone. They'll just find another way to do it. Even if they were to fail, they'd find another way to do it. All you can do is find a way to be prepared for it, to try and stop it without infringing on anyone's rights whatsoever, and hope for the best. I know I kind of got off topic because I think they were primarily wanting me to focus on arming teachers, but it's more than just the arming of the teachers that was covered in the article. And you can only say so many times. If a sheriff's deputy would freak out and not go in, what makes you think a teacher's going to do it? I mean, yeah, they might if they bust in the classroom, but again, what can you do? And nothing the only thing you can do, like I said, is try to start doing better and raising better children, and even then it's going to take a couple generations for it to work out. It's too late for my generation to be taught that. Probably too late for the high school kids, maybe even the middle school kids. You're going to have literally, it's probably going to take 10 years to get to the point where you can see if it works. This isn't just something that new. It's been building for 30 years or more. You're not going to get a solution overnight. You're not going to get a solution by banning. It's like they tried the assault rifle ban and wasn't there Columbine. I don't know the exact timelines on that, but I know that they would have happened about that time. So, it ain't going to work. And I don't know if I readily trust having just regular run-of-the-mill school teachers being trained like that. I don't think it would be enough for them to handle it. Doing stuff like that takes a particular mindset. And even then, you have people with the mindset who take the psychological tests, who go through all the training, both in military and law enforcement, and they freak out. My brother is an actual law enforcement officer. He's been involved in one officer-involved shooting. He went through all the training, no issues. Passed everything, background checks, psychological checks, everything. No signs whatsoever he would have an issue. Except for when he had that shooting. When he had to do the shooting. Because the guy refused to keep his hands up and made a sudden move to his waistband after announcing he had a gun and was going to shoot the police officers. And that was overheard on the 911 call and disseminated out. The guy didn't even admit it. He didn't know that his girlfriend, when she fought with him to keep him from getting out of the car, snuck the gun out of his waistband and slipped it under the seat of the car. He actually did admit that, or that did come out that is what happened. But still, he had PTSD from it. He did lose his job from that particular precinct because he only fired once. Because when he was actually, when he was actually put in that position, despite all the training and being on the force for a while, it was more than he could handle. So keep that in mind. You have to take into consideration there are people who go to the courses a lot longer than these teachers probably would, or more in depth. They do the ride-alongs with the full-time training officers. And they still have issues with it. You can't expect teachers who won't be doing all this stuff to necessarily be able to handle it. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. I've gotten sidetracked quite a bit, and this is quite a bit longer than I thought about having. Let me know what you think. Later.